The views, opinions, and content of this show are those of the host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect those of Local Matters Broadcasting, LLC, its owners, partners, affiliates, assigns, or heirs. Having said that, it's now time to say good morning, St. Johns County. Welcome to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, better known in our community as the COA. We are your local nonprofit agency who, for the past 51 years, has been leading and advocating for the dignity and independence of seniors and responding to their changing needs. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, broadcasting to you live from the studio of WFOI 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. Before we get into our show, let me remind everyone, if you have a question, comment, or a suggestion for a radio show topic, or if you're interested in trying out for our COA bobsled team that's going to participate in the upcoming Senior Olympics, well, you can send that email to radio@coasjc.org. Again, that's radio@coasjc.org. And just in case you are wondering, we do not actually have a bobsled team. But you can still email me if you are interested in starting one in the future, because maybe we could do that. Not that we get much snow in Florida. All right. So anyways, I do want to, before we continue on with our show, I do want to give a shout out to the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Recently, a senior with dementia who lives actually in the neighborhood near where I live had wandered out of his home and was missing. And I got to witness firsthand, because it was taking place in the area that I live in, to see the sheriff's office come in with the deputies and the canine unit to search for this individual, and also a helicopter up above, just circling around, making an announcement, trying to let the individual know that it was okay to come out from wherever he may be hiding. And this went on for 2 or 3 hours at least. And then I did get news that they did find him safe and got him home and taken care of. So big shout out to our sheriff's office and the amazing work that they do day in and day out in this county. Thank you all for that. All right, so joining me this morning is Susan Miller. She serves as the manager for COA's Integrative Memory Enhancement Program, better known as IMEP. And Susan has been on the show before. We've talked about IMEP several times over the years since I've been doing this. And later in the show, we will also be joined by Bobbi, Doggett, who is a caregiver whose husband benefits from our IMEP program. So anyways, but we're starting first with Susan. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Always good to have you in the studio.
Always good to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you making the very long drive down from Ponte Vedra to be on the show. And you come down the beautiful, scenic A1A, and every once in a while you get a little glimpse of the ocean on that drive. But most of it is like shrubbery and greenery on one side and houses on the other. So
yes.
But no problems this morning on your drive down?
No problem.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, we're not here to talk about your drive, but we are here to talk about IMEP. So, according to the Alzheimer's Disease International, there are over 55 million people living with dementia in the world. And by 2050, that number is expected to rise to 139 million. Currently, a new case of dementia is diagnosed somewhere in the world every 3 seconds. That is a staggering statistic. To help those with Alzheimer's and other related dementias, St. Johns County Council on Aging offers the Integrative Memory Enhancement Program we call it IMEP. And you were on the show back in January. You provided our listeners with a detailed explanation of IMEP. But there may be somebody that's tuning in today who is hearing about IMEP for the first time. So, again, if you would, just take some time, provide our listeners with a brief overview of IMEP.
Okay, thank you, Brian. IMEP is a beautiful gift that the Council on Aging offers seniors or people, doesn't matter how old you are, but if you're afflicted with early dementia or early onset Alzheimer's, we have a specific program that people can go to, that they can actually do something. They can take action and help diminish the progression of the dementia and or Alzheimer's. And we see that happening sometimes, sometimes not. But again, it's just a great thing because it's a program for people to come together and to work together doing word agility exercises, trivia, math challenges, various activities, stretching, chair aerobics, all these different things. But they can come together and do that. But what's really important is the fact that the person afflicted with the dementia and or Alzheimer's is getting to be, they get to be part of something. They get to socialize. They get to be with people that have commonalities like themselves. Maybe they're not as bad, maybe they're worse, whatever. It doesn't matter, because they come together and they have fun. And that is so very, very important for all of us. I don't care who you are. You must have to have fun in your life. And this gives, I hate to say those people, but people with Alzheimer's or dementia, that opportunity. And that's a gift. But it's also another gift. It's twofold, because their caregiver gets respite time, and they also know that their loved one is being stimulated, having fun, boosting their cognitive function. I mean, all kinds of great things are going on. And they don't have to think about it, and they have time to go do whatever they want to do, or maybe they have to go to work. I don't know. But, it gives them just a wonderful opportunity to be able to have their loved one happy and doing something fun, and not just sitting at home staring into space or at the television. So it's really a great thing. There's a lot of bonding that goes on, a lot of laughing. That's what I like best. So I'm very blessed to have this position and work at the COA and be part of such a wonderful organization that has so many different things for seniors. And it's not just dementia and Alzheimer's, but a plethora of other things that are
right.
so...
And I think that's important for our listeners to know is, maybe the person, doesn't have a diagnosis of dementia, but maybe they're having some cognitive impairment because maybe they had a mild stroke,
right.
Or maybe they were in an accident of some sort and had a brain injury. We've had, some folks that have been in the program because of that type of medical situation that they've dealt with. And so it's not just for people with dementia. I mean, that's kind of our main focus, but if you are dealing with cognitive impairment from something else, then you can also be a part of the program as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that we do that. All right, well, that does bring us to about the 8:15 mark, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our first commercial break. And after these messages, we'll have more questions for Susan, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, joined in the studio this morning by Susan Miller, who is the manager of our Integrative Memory Enhancement Program, known as IMEP for short. And in the first segment, she was giving us a nice overview of the program and what it includes and what someone can expect if they come to the program. Now, if you would, take some time, provide our listeners with the locations, the dates, the times, the cost of the IMEP classes.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We have 3 locations. We have one location here at Anastasia Baptist Church, and they meet 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Tuesdays, the program is from 9 to noon, and then Wednesday and Thursday, they meet 10 to noon. And they're great programs. Right now, I'm pretty sure we're full on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but we do have openings on Tuesdays. So if anybody is considering it, it's a great class, and the facilitators are lots of fun and lots of good people. And then we have a program at Fruit Cove that is just given on Thursdays, and that's at the Fruit Cove Baptist Church. And that's an actual 5-hour program, so it's a little bit more respite time for the caregiver. That meets from 9 to 2. And I do have a couple openings there.
And
then
lunches are provided in the 5-hour
thank
programs.
You. Almost forgot. Yes, lunch. We can't forget lunch. Anyways, so yeah, at Fruit Cove, and then lastly, Ponte Vedra Beach at the Ponte Vedra Memory Center. We're actually right next to the Ponte Vedra Concert Hall. Some of you might know where we are then. We meet Monday through Thursday. Mondays is 9 to noon, so there's no lunch. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 9 to 2 with lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then we recently started a 4th location at Dawson Chapel, and that's for our residents of the West Augustine area, and that is thanks to a grant from the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida. And so those who qualify, it's no cost to them to attend that, because it's a grant that is funding for them to go to the class. And so we have, so far we've had 4 that have come to that location. We have room for 12. So if you're out there listening, you're in the West Augustine area of the city, and you have a loved one who is dealing with cognitive impairment, whether that be from dementia, or again, as we mentioned earlier, from maybe a minor stroke or a brain injury of some sort, you are welcome to call Susan Miller and get signed up for that. We'd love to have your loved one come and visit that class. But that is covered by a grant. But the other locations, people have to pay for that, and the cost for that is?
It's $20 an hour.
$20 an hour. And then we do have some scholarship money from the United Way that we are able to provide to some of our folks. It's a very, very small amount, and I believe we have one scholarship available right now. So, if you're out there listening and you'd like to go to our Anastasia Baptist Church location, Fruit Cove Baptist Church, or Ponte Vedra location, and you're just like, oh, I can't afford it, you can talk with Susan. You can fill out the application. It's a very, very one-page application. We're just basically looking at your financial situation to determine what type of, if you qualify for a scholarship, and then if so, how much of a percentage off that you get. And so it's been nice for the United Way to provide that to us to help people to be able to come to the program. All right. So another thing I wanted to kind of touch upon, and as you already mentioned before, IMEP serves a dual purpose. Not only does it provide the participants with socialization or brain-stimulating activities, but it also provides respite for those who care for them. And according to the Alzheimer's Association, nearly 12 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or other dementias. And shortly we'll have Bobbi Doggett talking with us and how IMEP has impacted her and her family. But before we do that, if you would, what's some of the other feedback that you get from the caregivers who benefit from IMEP?
Well, most of them, I must tell you, are relieved, and they're happy. They're absolutely thrilled that their husband or wife or friend, whoever, has a place to come, that they're going to be busy doing stuff and stimulated and taken well cared for. Excuse me. So I find that the caregivers they're always like, you're a godsend. I can't tell you. And not only because it gives them peace of mind, but the real beauty of it is that they see a difference in their loved one when they come home. They're happy, they're more engaged, their self-esteem might be better. They can even notice their cognitive function is better. And I can't tell you, so many people that have come up to me and say, you just don't know. You just don't know how different he is. He's really happy and he's engaging, and, I don't have to fight with him about God knows what. And, to me, that's just, there's no words.
Yeah, that really speaks volumes about the program, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and and the facilitators who are in there doing the job, and the volunteers who assist as well, right?
Yeah. And I really have to put in about the facilitators and the volunteers, because if we didn't have the staff that we have, there's no way IMEP would happen, because the facilitators make this program happen. And all of our facilitators are top-notch, and they come from various backgrounds, usually teaching, nursing, things like that, but all these people care. They care.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about all of them, and the volunteers too are stellar, and they're the support system, and they're there, and they're doing whatever they can to make the program go.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the things that I've come to notice about it is, like, I love the personalization of it, right? Because the facilitators write out name cards that they place on the table where the folks sit. Now that's helpful for the facilitator. Of course they get to know them and they know their name without the name card eventually. But I think for the participant, I think that helps them to feel a little bit important, right? Like, these people. Oh, yeah. Like, they really want me here, right? And I think about the show Cheers. You remember Cheers? And in the theme song, I want to go to a place where everybody knows my name, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was the whole point of that, that bar scene for Cheers. Is like, people went there because they were known, and it was like a family outside of their own family, right? And so IMEP kind of becomes like that in a way. It kind of becomes a family type.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
It does.
And they get to know one another, and not just the participants, but the caregivers get to know one another as well. And I've heard stories about how they'll get together from time to time and do some things with one another, and that's very important for that camaraderie that gets to be built.
Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah, great. All right, well, we have a couple minutes before our next commercial break is going to interrupt us here. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Bobbi Doggett, and she is in the studio with us. And Bobbi, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming on to the show, driving again all the way from Ponte Vedra. We're going to go to commercial break in about a minute. So if you would, just briefly tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, and then when we come back from commercial break, we'll jump into some more questions. So just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Okay. I am originally from Pennsylvania, moved down here in 1982, so I think I'm a Floridian now.
Sounds like it.
And I have lived in St. Johns County for about 22 years. We moved here up in northern St. Johns County so that our daughters could go to Nice High School. So that was one of the reasons that we moved, because the schools are so good. So, yeah, I have been here for a long time. I teach at UNF. I'm an instructor there at UNF and teach public relations and their internship program. So that's briefly it. I've been married for, this year will be 40 years in November.
Well,
Richard and I have been married. So yeah, we've been together for a long time.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, looking forward to hearing more about it after we come back from our commercial break, which is going to come on here in just a couple of seconds. So, all right, so you've been listening to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, and we will be right back after these messages. And welcome back to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA. And before we continue on, let me just let you know that next week, Shelley Hazer with Flagler College Lifelong Learning Institute will be in the studio with me, talking about the different programs that they offer there. So be sure to tune in, same place, same time, right here on WFOY 102.1 FM. In the studio with me this morning is Susan Miller, manager of COA's Integrated Memory Enhancement Program. We call it IMEP for short. And then Bobbi Doggett, who is a caregiver whose husband benefits from IMEP. And prior to the commercial break, she gave a little brief description of herself and how long she's been in St. Johns County and what she does for a living. And now, Bobbi, I'd like to focus on, if you're willing to share about your husband, who you are a caregiver for, and just tell our listeners about him and this journey that you've been on with him.
Okay. Richard was diagnosed with Alzheimer's probably around 2 years ago, but we started noticing some changes in him earlier than that. He was always our cook in the house. He was the chef, for our daughters and I, and he always would cook dinner. And I noticed that he was starting not to want to be in the kitchen anymore, and then any meal that he would cook would just be one that he sort of really knew, but he would never experiment anymore like he used to. So our daughters, who are adult daughters now, they're grown up, but we started talking. We thought there's some changes happening with him. So if you notice that, you need to, because they're very subtle and you just think things are happening or we're getting older. But you really sort of need to focus in on those things. And we then contacted his primary care doctor, and there's a whole litany of things you have to do first. So we had to have his hearing tested. We had to have sleep apnea. We had to have his heart. So we had to do his heart tested. They want to weed out anything else besides any kind of cognitive problem. And so then we finally had the blood test done and some other things, an MRI and that type of thing. And we met with a neurologist, and he told us that, yes, he does have early stage Alzheimer's. And so at that point, there really isn't much you can do. I mean, there are drugs. He is having infusions done twice a month to help stabilize it, but it's never going to cure it. But I didn't want to leave him home alone because I still go into the office occasionally. And so I was looking for programs. And there are very few programs available for caregivers for their family members who have some kind of dementia or Alzheimer's. And so I looked at the COA website and was reading through that. And I really didn't want to have to come all the way down to St. Augustine because I live in northern St. Johns County, and then if I have to go to UNF, that would have been such a major trip for me. Mm-hmm. And then I found IMEP on the website, and so I started reading about it, and I thought, this is perfect. It's exactly what I want. And so I called up and talked to Susan, and we got him to go the first day. So I was a little nervous, he was a little nervous, but we went the first day, and he loved it. So I can tell you about that if you want. Yeah.
Well, I just want to circle back just for a second, though. I'm just kind of, when you first got the news, I'm just curious, like, what are some of the feelings that you and he and your daughters experienced as you got that official diagnosis?
Yeah, I think we were all really sad. In truth, I don't know if my husband at that point really knew what was happening to him. And there are times when he's such a happy person, I don't really know that he knows he has Alzheimer's. Even though he knows he has it, I don't really think he thinks that it is affecting him in any way, which is good in a way. We notice it more so than him. Like, he doesn't talk as much now as he used to and whatever. And he'll watch a lot of television, so that's why I wanted to get him out of the house and into socialization. But yeah, we were all really scared and sad. And there's, you can go to the Alzheimer's Association's website and whatever and read through, and they had some things online and whatever, and some support groups, but you really don't know what is happening, and you don't know what to do for your loved one. So that's why this program really helped me to do that too, to understand what was happening with him and to get him out of the house.
And then from a medical perspective, did you find that a positive experience? Or did you find it frustrating at times, like trying to get to that official diagnosis? It's
very frustrating, I'll tell you, because as I said, they don't just do a blood test or do the MRI or whatever right away. You have to go through a whole litany of other things first, and then even then, it took us months even to get into a neurologist, which was referred to by his family practice doctor. So it takes a very long time, and you are just sort of lost as to what you need to do and where you need to go for assistance or guidance as to what this is. So I bought books and I read all sorts of things to learn more about his cognitive behavior and what could happen. But then when you do that, sometimes it sort of scares you because you're like, is this what's going to happen to him? Am I going to have to do this and this? So you just sort of have to take it slowly, and each person is different. So some people will progress faster than others. Others won't. You won't notice things happening to them, or they'll have good days and bad days. So you just have to just know your loved one and be as patient with them as you possibly can.
And I think one thing that folks should probably learn from what you're saying is that if they notice something, don't wait.
Don't wait.
Go ahead and mention it because, as you said, the process is going to be long to get an official diagnosis. I think about my cousin. At first, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, but then they later discovered that it was Lewy body dementia. So they had to navigate. First they thought this, and then it ended up being something different, right? And then sadly he passed away from that. But I think the point is, if you start to notice something that you're Okay, I was expecting an emergency broadcast announcement after that, but apparently there's not. Okay, so we will continue on, and I've lost my train of thought because I was not expecting to be interrupted with that.
Well, we were talking about don't ignore little signs.
Yes.
That's the big thing, because I think we just think, oh, that's nothing, don't worry about it. But if you do start to see just some changes in how they respond, or changes in the way they used to do things, I would definitely contact your family practice doctor right away.
Okay, so let's circle back. You started to talk about how you discovered IMEP and your husband coming to it and has continued to come. And from what I can tell, you've been coming since October of 2024. And so if you would tell our listeners about how the IMEP class has benefited your husband and how has it benefited you?
Well, he was diagnosed in March of 24, basically, the diagnosis. We think it was earlier than that, but he so then I was looking for places to go to do, and so finally when I found IMEP, I called up and got him the first day. And the first day I went in with him, so I sort of felt like it was when my children were little and you took them to daycare. And so I went in with him, and I filled out all the paperwork, and I sat in on one of the first sessions. And
I'm sorry, that music means we've got to take our next commercial
that's great.
break.
I'll
Hold that thought. We'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back to the final segment of the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM. The local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, joined in the studio today by Susan Miller, who is the manager for IMEP, and then Bobbi Doggett, who is a caregiver whose husband benefits from IMEP. And right before the commercial break, Bobbi was telling us about how IMEP has benefited her husband and herself as well. So please continue.
Okay, so I think Susan even mentioned some of this, but for Richard, he just loves the program, and he is sad if we have a doctor's appointment or something that he can't go to. And one of the things that he really likes about it, I believe, is the socialization. He knows everyone's name. So when I pick him up, he will get in the car and he'll tell me, well, Dick was there and George was there, and he'll tell me everyone that was there. And one of the things I've noticed with him is he really likes to go because I think he's with people that are very similar to him, and there's he can be very comfortable there. If he makes a mistake, it doesn't matter. He loves the facilitators. He knows them by their first name. He'll tell me about them, whether they're a Florida fan or an FSU fan or whatever. He's just very happy, and as a caregiver, that's wonderful. And when if you take your loved one out, let's say you're going out with friends for dinner or whatever, if your friends really don't understand the condition that your loved one is in, the cognitive impairment, that can make your loved one very nervous, because they might even become anxious because they're afraid that they could make a mistake if they say something or whatever. So this whole situation with IMEP, he doesn't have to worry about any of that. He's with people that like him, that respect him, and that I see when I pick him up. And he always tells me what they had for lunch, and he goes in, and whatever the desserts are wonderful, because he'll tell me, we had Red Devil cake with icing on it. So the desserts are a real winner for us.
I've eaten the lunch there every once in a while, and I do know that they get some good lunches there, so that's great. So you've been doing the caregiving thing for somebody with dementia now for
couple years.
Years. Somebody that might be listening this morning, maybe they're just brand new to this. What type of advice would you have for that person?
Well, as I said, be patient, and one thing is, you just have to understand them a little bit better. Read as much as you can, but if you need some respite time, just because you're with them all the time. I mean, my husband doesn't drive anymore, so anytime we go someplace, I have to drive. And I thought of that. I thought anytime we do something, I have to be with him. Whereas when he gets to go to IMEP, I'm not there. And so for him, it's good, and for me, it's good. And as a caregiver, it gives you a sense of safety. You know they're safe. You know they're well taken care of. You know that they're having a good time, that they're with people that they like and respect, and that's a real relief for me. I can take him in and get him settled, and then I can drive away and not come back till 2:00 to pick him up. And so I can get things done. I can, even if I want to go home and just watch something on Netflix, I can do it because I don't have to worry about him, and that's a real relief for me as a caregiver.
Mm-hmm. Have you participated in any type of caregiver support groups yourself?
We actually tried one at IMEP, but because it was summer, it didn't work out. We'll probably try that again. I have gone to some at the community center there, the Ponte Vedra, or whatever it is, the PGA Community Center there. I've done that too. Okay. Those are good. I think those are really good. And for some people, their loved one is far more advanced than mine, and that's good. And there are others that aren't as advanced. So it's just a nice time to share things with other people. But what I like about IMEP for me is that I can have time for myself too. I think that's a good thing. Sometimes I just want, because I'm with him all the time, sure, I just want to have, even if it's just to go to the grocery store or just to go shopping for a little while, I can do that just for me. And I'm not trying to be selfish. It's just, it is really good so that then when I do pick him up, I'm rejuvenated and I can deal with the situation that he's changing. Yeah,
and I've mentioned this on the air several times. My wife and I took care of her parents for about 3.5 years. Her father had a brain aneurysm rupture and ended up being basically paralyzed on his left side and never really, fully came back cognitively either. So it was basically, like taking care of a 200-pound baby. We had to feed him and bathe him and shave him and take him to the bathroom and all that stuff. And my wife did most of it, but, I helped it as I could. And we were raising our 2 children. One was a preteen, the other a teen at the same time. And then 6 months after her dad had the brain aneurysm rupture, her mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. The first year, my wife was going to their home, and then we eventually found a place that we rented and moved them in, and we all lived together to take care of them. But it's exhausting. Caregiving is exhausting, and so I don't want caregivers to ever feel guilty for needing some me time, right? Because that's important. Because the caregiver needs, as you mentioned, needs to be rejuvenated so that you can then continue the caregiving of the person that you're caring for. And so, and my wife and I, unfortunately, we didn't get much of that when we were doing it. And so, by the end of the 3.5 years, as you can imagine, we were quite burnt out. So I love that you bring up that, how not only does it benefit your husband, but it's also benefiting you.
Yes. And I would tell, if you're thinking about it at all, at least give Susan a call or, look on the website, because the first time you get to go and sit there if you want to and be with them. And my story is real quick, is when I went to go pick him up, I thought, well, I'll go a little early just in case he doesn't like it. I'll go early. And I walked in and he looked at me and he said, I'm not ready to go yet. We have meditation. And I went, oh, okay. I'll just sit here. And so, they had meditation for the last 10 minutes of the program. And when he was ready to leave, he was like, this is great. So, I was real pleased with that.
Yeah, so the first time, we call it a trial class. It basically doesn't cost you anything. You can come, check it out. You as the caregiver can be there with the loved one that first time. It's not something you can do on a continual basis, but that first time at least, so that your loved one feels comfortable there. And I'm glad that was great for your husband, that he loved it the first time and he continues to come. And I believe he comes more than once a week.
Yeah, he comes Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so he does all 3 days. And and as I said, if we can't go for some reason because of another appointment, he's disappointed.
Yeah.
He is. He's disappointed he won't get to see his friends.
Well, and I've heard that from some of the other caregivers about, their loved one would get their clothes ready the night before because they were so excited about getting up and getting to go, So it really does provide the participant a purpose. And we were talking about this off the air. I mean, you think about it, like that's how we're raised, right? I mean, we go to school as a child and a teenager. We're getting up every day, getting ready to go to school and then doing it. And then if we're fortunate enough to go to college, then we're doing that. And then eventually we're getting up and going to a job. So like basically our whole lives, right? Like we're getting up with a purpose. Maybe we don't necessarily always like the classes that we have to take or the job that we have to do, but we still have a purpose. And so that's what IMEP is doing for these participants as well. It's giving them that purpose to get up. And that's why so many of them are excited. And then, like you said, they're upset if they don't get to go. So I love hearing that.
Mm-hmm. And the activities are very good. He brings home and tells me about the math that he has to do or the word things that they have to do. So, and I know it stimulates his brain, which is a really good thing. So I like that they're not just, the activities are they're structured in a way, but they're fun, and they all get to participate. And the good thing is, if your loved one is one that doesn't participate in things like that, that's fine too. Mm-hmm. They can just sit there and be quiet and observe everybody else. They're still part of the group, and everyone accepts them, and that's a wonderful thing.
All right, that music means it's time for our show to end. Thank you both for being in the studio. We'll see you here next week, same time, same place, WFOY 102.1 FM.